Phenomenological Philosophicus, the legendary work that had shaped, if not actually dominated, philosophical discussion in Cambridge for several years. None of those present would have claimed that they had even begun to understand the book, but this fact only boosted its fascination. Wittgenstein had finished the book in 1918 as a prisoner of war in Italy, convinced that he had found the solution to philosophical questions on all essential points, and thus decided to turn his back on the discipline. Only a few months later, as the heir to one of the wealthiest industrial families in Europe, he transferred his entire inheritance to his siblings. As he told Russell in a letter at the time, from now on, plagued as he was by severe depression and thoughts of suicide, he would support himself with honest toil. He would become a teacher at a provincial primary school. Wittgenstein was back in Cambridge, back, it was said, to philosophize. The genius, now 40 years old, had no academic title and was utterly penniless. The little money that he had managed to save lasted only a few weeks in England. Cautious inquiries about the willingness of his siblings to help him out financially were intemperately dismissed. "Will you please accept my written declaration that not only I have a number of wealthy relations, but also that they would give me money if I asked them to, but that I will not ask them for a penny," Wittgenstein wrote to Moore the day before his oral examination. What was to be done? No one in Cambridge doubted Wittgenstein's exceptional gifts. Everyone, including the most influential figures at the university, wanted to keep him there. But without an academic title, it proved institutionally impossible to find a research grant, let alone a regular teaching post for the former dropout, even in the clubby atmosphere of Cambridge. In the end, they hatched a plan. Wittgenstein would submit the Tractatus Logico Philosophicus, his first and so far his only book, as a doctoral thesis. Russell had personally advocated for its publication in 1921 through 1922, and had written a foreword to help the process along, since he considered the work of his former pupil far superior to his own groundbreaking studies in the philosophy of logic, mathematics, and language. No wonder, then, that upon entering the examination room, Russell swore that he had never known anything so absurd in my life. Still, an exam is an exam, and after a few minutes of friendly inquiry, Moore and Russell started asking some serious questions. These concerned one of the central riddles of the Tractatus, a book not exactly short on opaque aphorisms and mystical one-liners. Take, for example, the very first sentence of the work, strictly organized according to a decimal system. 1. The world is everything that is the case. Take also entries like 6.432. How the world is completely indifferent for what is higher. God does not reveal himself in the world. Or 6.44. Not how the world is the mystical, but that it is. The fundamental impulse behind the book is nonetheless clear. Wittgenstein's Tractatus stands in a long tradition of modern philosophy, such as Spinoza's Ethics, Hume's An Inquiry into Human Understanding, and Kant's Critique of Pure Reason. All of these attempt to draw a boundary between the propositions in our language, which are truly meaningful and thus capable of truth, and those that only seem meaningful, and because of that very illusoriness, lead our thought and culture astray. In other words, the Tractatus is a therapeutic contribution to the question of what one can meaningfully talk about as a human being and what one cannot. It is no coincidence that the book ends with the aphorism 7. Whereof one cannot speak, thereof one must remain silent. And just before that, under entry 6.54, Wittgenstein reveals his own therapeutic method. My propositions are elucidatory in this way.